All right.
Awesome.
Hey, welcome everybody. This is Joe Bergamini coming to you live from Sabian Education Network. We're up here on Sabian's Facebook page, Sabian's YouTube page, coming at you live. Welcome everybody. It's a lovely Thursday. Today's Thursday. Normally, Dom Famularo is the host of the Thursday broadcast, as our dedicated viewers know. However, Dom's having some technical issues, so he might be up in a few minutes. So I stepped up, being the SEN director. I'll be live tomorrow, actually, at 2 with the great Jeff Bowders, so come back for that. But I'm actually excited because I got to step in with my friend and longtime Sabian artist, terrific player based in Nashville, teacher, educator, tours all over with Luke Combs, Mr. Jake Sommers. Jake, welcome to the SEN Spotlight.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Our pleasure, our pleasure. So I guess, are you coming to us from you're at your kit, which is awesome. Is that like a practice space or teaching studio, or?
It's a mix of both. I have it set up for recording, doing sessions, teaching, and yeah, just practicing. I'm teaching a kid via Zoom today at 4:30, so that'll be fun and interesting to do.
Yeah. Well, have you been doing a lot of that during the pandemic and everything, or?
Not so much teaching. This is actually the first lesson I'm giving throughout the pandemic. I've been doing a lot of recording sessions since March, thankfully. So.
Okay. Well, maybe you've gone back and watched some of our SEN sessions about doing Zoom lessons and stuff, because it's been lots of them.
Oh, I definitely have. Gotta do it the right way, and watching the SEN videos is the best. So.
Well, I appreciate that, and I know you've been checking that out, and we really, really appreciate it. So let's kind of take it back to the beginning. So I know you went to the University of the Arts in Philly?
Yes, I did.
Oh, cool. So can you tell me a little bit about that experience? Was your teacher Mark DiCianni by any chance there? Or?
He was.
Oh, nice. Well,
4 years, even though I was technically only supposed to have him for 2.
Oh, nice. Well, you know what? Actually, before we talk about that, let's come back to that. Just tell me a little bit about how you got to that point. Like, what was your, the early days? Who were your favorite members? How'd you start out?
I've always kind of had music around me. My dad's played guitar since he was a kid, and it's kind of like once I was born, there was just always music going on. Either he was playing records from the Beatles, Springsteen, Clapton, all the good stuff. He would play, and then, when you're a little kid, your parents would get you the little toy guitars and little drum sets and stuff like that. And I just kind of took to it. And then remember for my 6th birthday, my parents got me this drum set that was, I don't even think this company exists anymore. And I think they were more for kids. It was called Max, MAXX. And it was just a pure black finish. And I just played it relentlessly. Hours and hours and hours. After school, during the summer and all that stuff. And I loved it. And I started taking lessons when I was 7. And I just continued on. And I met Dom he was doing a clinic at Sam Ash in Huntington. And someone's like, hey, you should go to this and meet this guy. And then he's a teacher. I met him, started taking lessons with him when I was 15.
Oh, wow.
And studied with him whenever he was in town and not around the globe. And actually, whenever he was out of town, I would take lessons, and I'm still very close with John Favicky.
Okay, I was going to bring up Fav. We were going to get to that. Yep.
Yeah. So, I've always kind of just loved the drums. I've always loved to make rhythms and make people dance with this instrument. And even I guess there's still people my age and sometimes older who still play video games. But I remember when I went to my parents at 15 years old and said, I want to do this professionally. And I just stopped cold turkey playing video games, and they were really impressed. But and I played even more than I already was. So it was instead of playing for practicing 3-4 hours a day, it was more trying to get 7-8 in.
Yeah, that's great. So, when you were, I'm just interested, when you were at 7 years old,
Mm-hmm.
did you have a teacher at that point, or were you just kind of like?
I had a teacher, and we'd go over like rudiments and, starting off with the basic stuff, rudiments, screws. We dove into some Latin stuff, did some jazz stuff, but, as a kid, you just want to play.
Right.
And I played along to all the records I can get my hands on. So yeah. I would do all the practicing that my teacher gave me, and then also played all the records just to try to get stuff under my hands and just see if I can do it and play along. So
yeah. I always ask that because I always wonder if there was, with the Sabian Education Network, there's so many teachers watching from all over the world, all of our friends. Dave Stark from Florida. Hey, Dave, for coming in, new member of the Sabian family. I'm always interested if there was like that mentor you had at that young age. You went to Dom at 15. That's a special thing. That's, to get with Dom at that young age.
Mm-hmm. I had a few teachers before Dom, and they were both great. It was just one of them, I don't know what he's doing now. I don't know if he's still teaching, but it's been years since I've seen either of them. But I'm sure they're still teaching back in New York. Mm-hmm. But yeah, when I met Dom, it was kind of like, okay, this guy is the drumming's global ambassador. And then he told me, like, I'm out of town a lot, so I want to put you in touch with John Favicky. And then at the same time, I kind of was working with both of them, which was great. So I feel like I had the best of both worlds, living in New York, studying with the two of them. But
and one more question. So when you were you the kind of guy like back then that you were like in bands right away, like in high school, you were playing live and just like playing out, or did that come later?
So I had like my close friends, and we were all in a band, but it wasn't like we're going to be playing out. We played at like a coffee shop and stuff like that. When I went to middle school and high school, they didn't have a like music program.
Oh.
So I did take all my lessons privately. Mm-hmm. And it was really, I guess, till I got to college where I started doing more band stuff and really being able to jam with people and playing out and all that.
So, and then at 15, when you were with Dom with Fav, were they like, did you get exposed to, like, I was like addicted to Rush and like playing along to all the popular rock drummers at 15. And I didn't get to Dom until after, like, I was 19, right? So I was reading in Modern Drummer about Steve Gadd and Tony Williams and all those guys. Like, were you, I guess at that age, you started to get exposed to a lot of the greats. Were you listening to like Buddy Rich, Tony Williams, and then Billy Cobham? Right? I'm sure those guys hipped you to them when you were 15 then, right?
Oh, yeah. I was definitely listening to definitely Tony, Buddy, of course. I listened to a lot of Max Roach. I really dug his stuff. Him, and then, of course, Elvin Jones. Mm-hmm. And I would, it was kind of odd. I would hear him there listening to, like, Steve Gadd. Even, obviously he's incredible. But I kind of got more into him when I was in college. I think it was more like going to school and really digging into all these different styles kind of had me gravitate towards, like, him, Vinny, Weckl, the guys who are, I guess you can put the now legendary names.
Yeah. So,
and then of course you can never go wrong with like Steve Jordan. But when I was a kid, I love, and I still do, Stuart Copeland. Just a feel that is kind of all his own. What he does with the hi-hat.
Yeah.
And how he kind of makes it. I don't even know. It's just like I kind of gravitated towards his playing in Carter Beauford.
Yeah. So. Exciting players. So how did you choose? Again, a lot of us right now we're advising students about going to colleges and everything. How did you choose UArts? How did that all work out? What was the draw? And while you're doing that, I'm gonna email Dom the new link because he's watching. But I want
okay. So I only applied to 4 colleges, one being Berkeley, And then one was in New Mexico that I don't know if I should be saying this online, but they ended up shutting down.
Okay.
And then another one was more of like a liberal arts school in North Carolina, which I got accepted. And then University of Arts was actually the last one I applied to.
Oh.
And I got into the one in North Carolina, the one in New Mexico, and UArts. I got deferred from Berkeley and then unfortunately didn't get in. But I realized from, I'm pretty sure I took a tour of UArts beforehand and was like, okay, you know, this I like the class sizes, the teachers seem really good. And then when Dom told me that he knew Mark, it was like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, okay, I should definitely go here. You know, Mark's here, and then there were other great teachers, and it's kind of meant to be. It was also only, I think, 2 hours from New York, so it wasn't a long bus ride home. And
what was it? What town did you grow up in again?
I grew up in two different ones, Setauket and then Northport.
Okay, so you were on Long Island, right? So,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. It looks like Dom has come in. Let's see if Dom can hear us.
Setauket and then Northport.
Okay, so you're there? So,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
It looks like Dom's there. Let's see if we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Setauket and then Northport.
Okay, so you're there?
I can hear you all. Let me shut down the other.
Close down the yeah, great. All right.
Back in action, right?
Jake, Dom is here. He crashed the party. I was just getting warmed up, man.
Well, I wanted to give you a break to get back to your wine drinking.
Yeah, you know, I always start early in the morning, you know. Like George Carlin said, what kind of wine goes with Captain Crunch? I'm still trying to figure that out, you know.
Jake, this is so great to see you. Joe, thanks so much for filling in this process here. This is fantastic. I've listened to a little bit of what you guys are doing when I went onto YouTube. I'm not exactly sure what happens with technology or with my computer. You can hear me. I can hear you now. These computers are sensitive. When they work, it's a miracle. When they don't work, I want to drop kick the freaking thing off the roof of my house.
That's how I feel.
So Dom, I'll go out here, but I'm gonna stay right down here in the bottom. I'll take myself out. But we were just getting to Jake's experience at University of the Arts. Studied a little bit with Mark DiCianni. You talked about how you and Fav got him started. So maybe you guys pick it up from there, and I'll keep an eye on you guys.
We'll take it from here. Thank you, Joe, so much. Jake, this is fantastic. Now I want to go back, just if I can, in those early days. With first of all, what did you talk about? What got you inspired to get into drumming?
I think my parents just kind of always saw that I like to have a knack for it in a weird way. Like I don't know if I should be saying this on here, but my mom has a picture of me in a diaper when I was a baby with a box set around my neck and drumsticks in my hand. So it was kind of like from day one, he's like, okay, well, he's probably going to be a drummer. And then I think I was like 3 or 4 years old. I was at my cousin's wedding. I only remember because of stories my parents told me, but I had apparently asked the band leader if I can go play the drums. And granted, my feet couldn't hit the pedals, so it was just my hands. So I think from there on out, they're like, you know what? When he's old enough, we'll get him a drum set. And then when I was 6 years old, they got me one, and I literally just took to it. Like it was, kind of came effortlessly.
So, I mean, we talk about how the instrument chooses us at an early age. It's quite obvious that the connection was made. Now, talk about Favicky. John Favicky, for those that don't know, johnfav.com. John is a phenomenal player. He's a phenomenal educator. His book, Elements, is a fantastic book that really has the understanding of how to put together pieces of ideas, of rhythms that you can form together. Talk about your sessions that you had with John Fav.
Oh, wow. Well, we've definitely gone through Elements. And I would honestly say he prepped me for my audition for colleges. And we went through, going over Afro-Cuban beats and Latin, bossa novas, sambas, jazz stuff, rock stuff, funk stuff. And he's always so hands-on, like to be able to start the lesson. We always started the lesson with pad stuff and some reading, and then we always moved on to the drum set. And that's something I'll always love to do. And then, like I was telling Joe, I have a student later on today that I'm going to Zoom with, and I'm going to do that same format, whereas we're going to start at the pad and then go to the drum set. So I think that's a great thing to warm up your hands, to go through different rudiments, to go through a few books like syncopation and stick control, and then move your way to the drum set. It's just a great way to have your limbs all warmed up instead of just sitting down and going for it. So that's one of the big things I've, benefited from John, aside from all the things he's taught me. So,
it's kind of great. I had the chance of teaching John when he was in his late teens also. So we went doing that process of from pad to kid and all the different books. So John learned that so well. Then John started teaching at some schools that I had recommended him for at a young age, and still has continued to be a great player, a great recording artist, and a great author. So he's done many different things in that process. So then you kind of found me in the process, and you lived actually only a town over or so, right?
Yeah, I lived in Setauket, so that was 20 minutes from you, I think.
From Port Jeff Village, where I live, so it worked out really well to have that level of communication. We've got Arthur, who's from Russia here. Check this out here. I want to see if I can bring Arthur up here. Let's see if I can show his. Oh, I can't show it because Joe's the host on this one here. Okay, we've got. Oh, here it is.
Oh, there you
Arthur,
go.
Hi, Dom. The one before that, Joe, where he said, oh, okay. Well, what was it like when we were doing lessons? What was that like? You can take that down now, Joe. But Arthur, thank you so much. In our lesson,
what drum books do you use for practicing? Is this for me or for you?
Well, let's take this for you now. So what drum books are you using now in practicing? We've gone through all of them in the process. With this crazy time, I've been re-going through the new breed.
And then I still use syncopation. I still use stick control. I like, living in Nashville. They have everything, but I've been doing more country and not as much jazz stuff. But for fun, I like to play jazz at home. And then what I do is I take those two books and I take the patterns you do with your hands, and I would make my left hand do the comping. So I get my left hand all down with all that stuff, and then I will, while doing that, mess around with my right foot, keeping my left foot on the hi-hat, steady with 2 and 4 or quarter notes. And that's kind of what I've been doing for practicing now, just working on independence more, and even just recording myself with doing all that stuff with books, or just recording myself playing for fun. And because that's something I've been doing a lot, is doing sessions. But going back to the books, I've been going through, honestly, books that I've still, been going through with you and John. So you're still working on independence. You're still working on your hand technique. Listen, you were doing some serious touring with Luke Combs. Talk about, so you made the move after my lessons. You go to Mark DiCianni. You're in Philly. You're taking lessons there. You're studying from the school there. He is a phenomenal educator at so many levels. Oh, yeah. So talk about that, what that was like. When you got there, you had been prepared by John and myself. What was it like when you hit the scene there? It was, I don't want to say over the top, but it was definitely the right amount of work. They definitely focused on, okay, how much, granted you have the things in your lessons, but it's like, okay, how badly does this kid really want to get better at his craft? And for me, it was every chance I had to practice after classes from lessons that I had with Mark and another guy named Eric Johnson, I would just take their lesson plans and just practice for hours and hours and hours. And it's really, from what I tell people, it's all about what you put into it. You could have one of the best teachers in the world, but if you don't put the time in, you're not going to get better as a player.
Well, this is so true.
And I knew, once, as I said earlier, when I was 15, I wanted to do this professionally, and I just put my heart and soul into everything when I was there, and still do. But when I was there, I wanted to just be a sponge and soak it all up. Like everything they threw at me, like, hey, here's some jazz stuff, play this, here's some Latin stuff, here's Afro-Cuban, here's funk stuff, here's rock stuff. Here, we didn't really do much country, which is kind of funny because that's what I'm doing now. But everything they gave me, I tried to just learn as much as possible. And because I know it was always good to have that stuff in my back pocket. So, because I want to be versatile, and if I ever was called to do a jazz gig, I can still do that,
Right.
or a Latin gig or a funk gig. So I just wanted to be able to have a little bit of everything. Ooh.
So at that time, we were talking about open-handed playing too, right?
Yes.
So you started playing open-handed.
I always played open-handed.
So in the beginning stages, I remember when you came to me. Now, are you naturally a righty or a left-handed person?
I'm naturally left-handed.
So a left-handed person playing a righty kit.
Mm-hmm.
And when you came to me, you were already playing with left hand on the hi-hat. I think at that point we lowered it a little to get you even more comfortable, and you took off running, playing open-handed, nonstop in this way. Where's your ride cymbal?
My ride cymbal is right here. So I have my floor tom here, my rack tom here, and I have my ride cymbal right here.
So your ride cymbal's on your right.
My ride cymbal's my right. I have a crash over here, and then the Chad Smith 21 AA Holy China right here for fun.
Yeah, we're going to get more into the specifics of your sounds because you got some great sounds there. But open-handed, so you started playing this way here, and you got into open-handed playing just because that felt comfortable in the beginning?
Yeah, I just sat down, and my hands just kind of took to it naturally. I tried for fun doing the ride over left, and it just wasn't comfortable. I even tried for fun making my kick completely left-handed, and my left foot was like, this is not happening. You got to go back to the way you had it. And I just kind of kept on doing the open-handed. And it might look weird, but it works for me. And then through my years of playing, obviously teaching, studying with you, John, Mark, a lot of people have actually asked me, why do you play open-handed? And what I tell them is, well, one, it just comes naturally. Two, you could do more around the kit if you're open-handed. You don't have to cross your hands at all. You don't have to cross your arms or anything. You're already right there. If you go around the kit, you can come right back here instead of crossing over. And I tell a lot of guys too, if you grew up seeing your favorite drummers play their right hand on their hi-hat and their left hand on their snare drum, that's ultimately what you're going to want to do.
Well, this is so great that you see it that way, because there's now a Facebook page being started for open-handed players, and just for them to talk about why they've made this change. And guys like Billy Cobham, Simon Phillips, and myself, and Klaus Hessler, and so many great drummers that are out there, and yourself too, playing open-handed. Gene Hoglan is a metal player. He plays open-handed. Have you ever put like a ride cymbal to your left?
I have done it a few times. I do have another stand that I can do that. I haven't done it recently, but I definitely now want to have one set up just for fun. Because I know for independence sake, it's good. But for my touring setup, I'm just so used to having it here. And I have I have a secondary snare drum, like pretty much to my left. And then I also have a Yamaha DTX multi-pad. So I kind of have all that right there in the way to have a second ride for tour. But for home, I could definitely set it up. And I think that'd be a lot of fun to do.
Well, and I say, just think about having two rides. I mean, Sabian makes so many great rides. There might be some ride options. Your right ride and your left ride, two different rides. Sometimes I use an Evolution and an HHX ride on the kit. And those two different sounds offer just more different sound options on how you might want to ride. If there's someone like yourself who's so natural at this here, one of the things that Sabian does so well is they offer so many of these options that we can have. Who knows where creativity can be sparked out of that?
Oh, that's true. I mean, I was literally talking to my good buddy who lives in LA, Robin Diaz, who's a Sabian guy as well.
Yeah.
And I was asking him about his thoughts on the Legacy Heavy Ride, because I'm thinking about possibly getting that. So...
Well, I love it, man. Well, this is so. Now let's go back. So you were in Philly for how many years?
I was in Philly for 4 years.
And you worked on. I mean, Mark takes you through a wide variety of journeys of what's happening. I mean, it's so great. John Favicky kind of got you prepped in the drumming world of what it was like with reading and fundamentals. Then you came to me. We started working on technique, and I took you through It's Your Move and Stick Control and all those books, and getting you just your fundamental techniques together. Then when you were ready for school, I touched base with Mark. it was a no-brainer to go there. Philly was not that far away. You went there, spent several years there. Then from there, did you come back home and then decide to make the move to Nashville? How'd that all work out?
So my senior year of college, I went to visit Nashville. One of my dad's close friends used to own the independent label Wind Up Records in Manhattan. And he said, if Jake really wants to go for this, he should check out Nashville. So we took a little trip, and the first thing I saw was Lower Broadway, where all the honky tonks were. And I fell in love because it's music from 10 a.m. and when there's no COVID going on until about 2 a.m. to 3 in the morning every single day. And you're like, this is amazing. How do you not want to move here if you want to try to make it in this field?
Yeah.
So I knew after the visit, when I was done with college, I wanted to move to Nashville. So I graduated in May 2013, and then I stayed in New York for a few months. I did the whole checking out Craigslist, see if there's any gigs on there. There was like one gig that wasn't, it was, for what it was fun. But I knew that I wanted to move sooner. I was going to move in October, but I told my parents, listen, there's nothing for me here in New York anymore. And I need to move sooner. So I moved August 6th, 2013. And then through Mark, there was an alumni here who invited me to a party on Music Row. This was, I think, my second day in town. I had talked and networked with pretty much everybody at that party. I met a drummer who is still a good buddy of mine, and he told me he was playing downtown. He said, do you want to come in and sit in? I said, of course, why not? I did that. A very inebriated bass player walked in. Coincidentally, while I'm playing my two songs, I got done. He came up to me and he said, this isn't your gig? I said, no, I just moved here yesterday. And he said, well, our drummer's leaving. Do you want to come audition tomorrow? I said, yes. You know, what are the chances of this? I did the audition. An hour later, I got a call. Hey, you got the gig. Come sit in these next few days to kind of get the material down, and you'll start middle of next week. So I started playing Broadway the middle of my second week in town, and that's never happened. So it was like timing, luck, all that stuff. But,
so a couple things. So let's shift back up for a second. You make the move to Nashville. So you got to find a place to live.
Yep.
You got to, you're in now, you're coming from New York and now you're going down south. That's a whole nother different, sense of courage that it takes. What was it like to make that move just physically coming from the north and going down south?
Well, I definitely did a lot of research on places and kind of where I wanted to live starting out and what would be, because I figured I'd be playing Broadway for, it could be 5 months, a year, who knew how long. So I wanted to be somewhat close enough within the vicinity. If someone needed a drummer and another drummer couldn't make to the gig, they can call me and say, hey, we need you to come down right now.
Right.
So I found a spot that was about, I would say, 5 to 10 minutes from downtown.
Yeah.
I couldn't play my actual drums in the apartment I lived in, so I have an electronic kit. So that's how I practiced and all that. But it was, I don't know, it wasn't as scary as I thought it would be, just because I was so excited to start this new chapter.
Yeah.
And I just kind of took to it. Everybody I met was very nice, very friendly. They didn't make any remarks. Oh, you're, from New York, you're a Northerner. So,
which happens in this crazy country of ours. But what I'm amazed about, which I'm always impressed with, is what I should say, is that your parents have always been supportive. Your mom, I remember your mom during the lessons. She's just 100% behind you. Your dad, they're just great people that saw the fact that you had this desire, and they empowered you, they fueled you, they supported you. They just let you follow this dream. And as always in any dream, we don't know what it's going to bring us.
Exactly.
When you have that kind of support, that's pretty powerful what your parents did.
And the cool thing was they never were like, hey, what's your plan B? It was just always, this is what he's going to do. This is what he's going to do. And here we are years later. So
that's it. So now you get there, you meet up with this bass player. You're in this band. So what band was that first band?
This group, what was the band called? The Lower Broadway Band was the name of it. And I don't know if any of those guys even still live in town. But it was, I know the bass player, they had a new bass player come in, and him and I still talk. He's a great guy, great bass player. But that was a good experience because you had to learn all these songs that you might not have known, because downtown it's all these covers from rock to country. So whenever there were songs I didn't know, I would go home, and I wouldn't always have a gig every day, but I would have a gig at least maybe 4 out of the 7 days of the week, maybe sometimes 5, and I would sometimes be doing double. So it was like I'd play from 2 to 6, and then 6 to 10, and then come home. Or I would sometimes do triples and do 2 to 6, 6 to 10, 10 to 2:30. And I was like, you know what? This is great. I'm doing what I love. I'm making money doing it. I'm getting exposure playing. But back to the learning songs, I would be charting sometimes 12 to 15 songs a day whenever I had the time, and learning it as close to or just like the record, because to me that's more important than, okay, I'm going to play the groove, but the fills I'm going to not do like the song.
Right.
So to me it was always important to learn the songs like the record.
So you're learning these songs, you're going down there. Remember how we do it up in the north here. We write the charts out and we write the grooves out and the fills. But down in Nashville, there's this number system.
Yes.
Did you learn that, or did you write these charts out, in our conventional way?
I did learn that, and I know it, but I still, even to this day, write. If I'm learning drum parts, I use our conventional way, because I want to be able to see exactly what I'm playing. I don't want to look at a number and then be like, okay, well, you can write in the groove and say it changes here and there, and then you have a fill. You can't fit that all in a number chart. Yeah. I'd rather have everything down that I'm going to be playing, and you just, you grind it in your head. You play it over and over and over again, and that's how you learn the song. That's how you learn your parts. And I think, to me, that's more beneficial than, honestly, reading a number chart to get through a song.
It's a huge thing down there, the number charts of how they use that, and so many great players use those charts. Jim Riley, a phenomenal player, Rich Redmond, these are great guys that come from that area and use those charts. So I guess it's what you kind of get used to in the process. Like yourself, I kind of like seeing everything kind of written out, so I know exactly what I'm doing, exactly what groove, exactly what kicks, exactly what fills. And I might not write the exact fill out, but I'll know in that exact area where that fill's going to start and finish. Well, that's it. So you still have that old school, a chart skill, which is fantastic.
Oh yeah, I mean, for all the songs that I've had to learn from Luke, I have a full book of everything charted out. So,
about how many songs do you think you have with Luke?
Oh gosh, let's see. His new deluxe album that just came out, I think it has that album alone has close to, I want to say 17 to 20 songs.
Right.
And then the previous album, I would say 40 or 50, maybe.
So you have them all charted out.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go back now. So you're with this first band, you're playing.
Mm-hmm.
How did the next step, networking, get you, to the next band?
So I happened to go, when I went to visit Nashville, I went to this clothing store and I met this guy who was working there. He said his drummer, gave me his card, said, call me when you get here. We grabbed coffee. You went to a clothing store? Yes. I went to a clothing store and met a drummer who was working there. It's great.
This is Nashville. This is so great. This is Nashville. So what you meet you just start talking about music?
Talking about music. He was like, hey, what do you do? Are you visiting? When I first came to visit, what are you doing or trying to do in Nashville? I told him I'm a drummer. I want to move here, play drums. So when I moved here, we caught up, we got coffee. And then 5 months in, he sent me a text and said, hey, I'm leaving this group. It would be a great foot in the door for you. They're called the Mulch Brothers. And they were touring 200 plus states a year. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, I want this, time to tour and to have that under my feet as well. So I jumped on that, did the audition, got that gig. So I started touring with them, I think, by my 6th month in town.
And what kind of music was that?
They were like country rock. They were maybe more of a, I want to say, John Cougar.
Okay.
With a hint of country.
So Mellencamp, John Mellencamp, kind of a vibe. So now, how many songs did you have to learn then?
Ooh, that was a hint of like originals and covers. I would probably still say maybe 20 to 30.
So I want people to know that, you because of the skills that you learned in your educational skills, you were able to now move in with these bands, chart these songs out, learn these bands fast, and be prepared in a short amount of time.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And it's definitely a good skill to have. And I tell, people ask like, oh, what do you have to do to get to where you are? One, you have to know how to chart out songs at a decent pace. You have to be able to integrate them into your brain quickly and play them the right way.
Yeah.
And I think that's important because I think when you play a show, and if there's a signature drum part or a signature guitar part or whatever, the crowd's going to know that, and they want to hear that. And if they don't hear it, they'll say, well, that wasn't right.
Yeah.
Why didn't you play that lick that I came here to see him play?
Yeah.
So I think that's important to where it's like, I want to play it just like the record and have it obviously feel just like the record. And I want the crowd to have the best experience they can.
So how did Luke Combs come about? Because I mean, I'm so proud of you at what you have. I'm proud of you at many levels, Jake. I'm proud of you as a student. You always came in here. You were always prepared for every lesson. You came in here knowing what it was, and every lesson we were building on top of your skill base. That's why when you were ready to go to Philly and go to Mark DiCianni, it was a no-brainer. You went there and you were ready. You knew reading, you knew independence, you had your chops together, you were focused on all different genres, you were open-minded about it all. We had all that stuff out of the way so you can get to the music core that Mark teaches so well. Get to Nashville, you're playing with these bands, you're sitting in immediately and making it happen. And on top of your playing ability, you're a great guy, you know how to be a kind person, you know how to socialize with people, you know how to blend with people, and that is another big help of what's happening. So now how did that lead to Luke Combs?
So in Nashville, it's definitely more of a songwriting town.
Yeah.
And there was I was taking some lessons with Jim Riley, actually.
Yeah.
And I was in the process of leaving the Mulch Brothers, and I said, I really want to play with someone who's more my age and someone where I could progress with. Yeah. And he said, you have to go to writers' rounds, and either these songwriters who are just songwriters will want musicians, or they're songwriters and artists who want musicians, or who need musicians, I should say.
Yeah.
And I went to this place called Tin Roof, and they do a writers' round on Tuesdays called Revival. This was November 2014. And I didn't know anybody there, just walked in, and I heard this guy singing, and the stage is small, so they have a church pew with 3 people on it, and they each do a song. They each do 3 songs. I walked in, heard this guy singing, and I was standing behind him, so I didn't even know what he looked like. I just heard his voice and the song, and I was like, this guy's incredible. Like, I just need to talk to him, even if it doesn't work out. It just seems like a good guy to talk to. So he got done. I went up to him after, and we talked for a little bit, and he asked me what I do. I told him, and I even was like, yeah, I went to school for music. Like, I don't think he really cared. But he said, I have a gig next week. I really need a drummer. Do you want to play? I said, yes, sign me up. Totally, send me your stuff immediately. He sent me his stuff. I did my homework, and then we had a rehearsal. I think it was a day or 2 before. I was the first one at the rehearsal with all my stuff set up, all ready to go. We did the rehearsal, we did the gig, and then we played a frat party at the University of Alabama. I was the only person without a floor monitor. And before the songs of the originals, I would scan my chart down because I had them memorized, but I was like, okay, just in case. Scan it down, did that, played it, crush it. And then we just hung out those next 6 months because he didn't have gigs, just to get to know each other more. And then he called me and said, I'd like you to be my guy. Do you want to do this full time? And I said, yes, I'd love to. And then 2015, we started really touring.
Yeah.
We're doing like 200 plus dates a year in a van. And that's kind of how it's all started.
So you're doing all these dates. So now, when was the first album that you started putting together?
So he came out with his first album. Gosh, I think it was 2017, I believe. So
Yeah, 16 or 17,
in Nashville, there's touring guys and there's session guys.
Yeah.
So he had used session guys on his album and still does, which they say, you know, time is money, and the producers know these guys who can just get it done. So I get that. But his first album came out in 2017, and his first single is called Hurricane. And I remember it was on XM, the highway, as a highway find. We were all, I forgot where we were, but we all hopped in the Sprinter van and we heard it for the first time on the radio. We were all like, just so thrilled and so excited. I think that was in 2016 that happened.
Yeah.
And, you know, then eventually that song went #1 in the country for a few weeks, and then kept on releasing songs, and those kept going to #1. Now I believe he has 9 or 10 #1s as an artist, which is pretty incredible for being in town for 5 years. Well, no, sorry, 6 years.
Yeah.
So
pretty powerful. So now you're working, and I remember you played Madison Square Garden.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was.
I was out of town. I was in Europe someplace, and you called to invite me, which was so kind of you. I think John Favicky went to that.
John and his wife got to come to that. I would have loved to have you and your wife there as well, but I knew you were out of town. But that was a truly memorable night. And to kind of backtrack, and this will stay within the New York thing, our first show we actually did in New York was for our own gig was the Mercury Lounge. But in 2017, I think the first thing we did the Today Show. That was our first TV spot. But then we also got to do, on the tour we were on, we played Jones Beach, the amphitheater, which was really cool.
Nice.
So I kind of got to play all these different venues, and then Madison Square Garden. And we did that with Jason Aldean in 2018.
Yeah, you opened up for Jason Aldean, but think about it, which was Rich Redmond on drums.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
How deep is that? I mean, here you are. Listen, this is freaking Madison Square Garden in New York City. This is where you're from. This is like huge.
It's every, I would say, New Yorker's musician's dream to play that. And then I guess touch on the Madison Square Garden stuff. This year on our tour, that unfortunately is postponed, I believe it was our last, not the last 2 dates, but the 2 dates prior to finishing it off. We have 2 sold out shows at Madison Square Garden. That'll hopefully be for next year.
Unbelievable.
Which is incredible. And to just be able to go back there and play it as a headliner is, I'm sure, a whole other feeling than playing it just as direct support. You know, even just playing it, though, is like you walk in while they're still setting the stage up, and you're just like, I remember sitting here at a basketball game, sitting here. And I never saw a concert there till I played one that night, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, that's really unbelievable. Well, I'll tell you something. You, as I said, I'm so proud of you. And when you get back to the Madison Square Garden, I'm going to make sure I am in town because I want to come down and hear it live for sure.
You have 2 nights now. You can't miss out.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you something. What's good about it now is talk about your cymbals now. You've been with Sabian now for a while, and what cymbals do you use in the setup? You know, your general setup, and when you're playing live, especially in these big arenas.
So I recently, over the years, I've kind of switched out different lines, but this year I've been playing the Complex series.
Yeah.
And I was kind of looking at all of them at NAMM this past year, and I was asking Rick Murray about the 14 and 15-inch complex hats, and he said, "Man, those are great, but I have something better for you." He said, "I tried these out. They're not even actual hi-hats." He told me they're the complex 16-inch thin crash and 16-inch medium crash for complex. He said, "You need to get these and make these in the hi-hats. You'll be the only guy in the country or maybe the world playing these right now." So I was like, deal, I'm done. So I got those, and then I got two 20-inch thin complex crashes, just because different timbres, one could be darker than the other. So I use one on my left side, and then I use one typically where this China would be.
Yeah.
And then I got the 22-inch complex crash, and I honestly think that might be my new favorite crash. It plays. Granted, all the complex cymbals just sound fantastic and they play so well, but that crash cymbal, it's like butter. And then I have the 22-inch complex medium ride, so that's my touring setup. And then for home, I just kind of mixed and match.
So what was it like playing with 16-inch hi-hats?
Oh, I loved 15, and then moving up to 16. They're a little bigger. They're nice. They're definitely I would say with these, they're kind of, in a weird way, slightly trashier.
Yeah, yeah.
I like them a lot, though. And I think the beauty of this hi-hat setup, with it being two crashes, if I ever needed 16-inch crashes, I got them right here. No, I love it, and I still sometimes go back to 15s. I actually don't even own a pair of 14s, which I probably should just to have on hand. But I do like these 16-inch hi-hats. They do great for arenas, and of course, the bigger cymbals, they really get the job done. So I think the smallest cymbal I might own, if I'm using these for hi-hats, is a 17-inch. I want to say HHX Extreme Crash.
Could be, yeah.
But since the complex line came out, it's been like my go-to. I remember talking to Rick at NAMM before, and I was like, "Hey, like, I'm not supposed to really tell anybody this, but we're doing SNL February 2nd, and I'd love to be able to use these cymbals on the show." And he was like, "Okay, cool. I'm going to talk to Stanky, and we're going to see how quickly we can get these." So they thankfully got them to me, and thanks to both of those guys. And I got to use the whole complex line on SNL for the first time, and that was a really cool experience. And they sounded incredible.
So what you may use in an arena, even as opposed to maybe the stage at SNL, that people have to know, SNL, Saturday Night Live, is the show in America on Saturday evening. It's a live show, so you're playing live at the studios at Rockefeller Center. I think it's the Studio 8A, or I'm not sure what studio it is.
I think it's 8A.
8A, and it's just a phenomenal studio. And you have got people that have signed on here that are listening, people from Belgium, from Russia, from Cyprus. You've got some people here. When I look at the list of people, Dave Stark has joined us.
Hi, Dave.
From Florida, Claude Hoffman from Belgium, Victoria from the Ukraine. My gosh, there's just so many people that are here that have joined us. So you've got a pretty global reach here. Arthur from UFA Russia here. We've got, it just is amazing that the region. Bobby A from upstate New York. This is some great people that are listening here, Jake. So you've inspired tons of people with your sheer go-to energy, your perseverance of what you do, and the sounds that you choose to be able to get to play in Madison Square Garden, New York. And then you get to play Saturday Night Live, which goes to millions of people.
Oh, yeah.
You got to pinch yourself sometimes and say, I'm pulling this off.
Believe me, I still pinch myself. I mean, going to SNL, that was a real trip. I mean, you walk in and you see how they, do the show without costumes, the skits they go through, the skits they might cut out for the show. And then for the band and the musical guests, a lot of the other shows is just same day, same camera blocking, same rehearsal, sound check type thing. SNL, you do 2. So you go in, the first day you're there, you do like a line check, sound check, camera blocking. The next day you actually do the full show, before the full show, before they're actually dressed up and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's pretty wild to have to you do 2 rehearsals because the show's live. You can't, no messing up on that one. So,
boy, that's pretty intense. When you think about just the fact that you're experiencing behind the scenes of these great shows and you're out there doing it. And what's amazing, Jake, is you're still in the thick of it. So I'm sure once this pandemic starts to settle in, next year you guys will hit the road when bands start to hit the road again.
Yeah. So for next year, if everything goes according to plan, we're going to be finishing off this year's tour. So I'm hoping we start doing just a few shows in June, but as of now, it's September, and then we'll do September through, I think our last show is December 3rd. So it's kind of quick. So it's like the September through November is, I think there's shows every single weekend.
Right.
So.
Well, it's going to be exciting for sure. And I want everyone to go back and research the band and Luke Combs and what you're doing. And, just the fact that you're pulling this all off and making this happen. And you are a great representation of Sabian. It's so great to have you, Sabian Education Network, as people see that. Now that you're home, you're doing some teaching, you're taking some calls on Zoom, you're educating people, you're still surviving in this crazy time that we live in. So it takes that level of preparation. If there's anyone that's done the preparation for a career in music, Jake, you are the best example of it all.
I appreciate it.
Really, really fantastic. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining me here. Thank you, Joe Bergamini, for allowing me to kind of figure out what the hell was going on with my computer here. But we're back in action here. This is incredible. I do my thing on Thursdays at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Joe Bergamini is back tomorrow at 2 o'clock. He's got guys that he's doing. My gosh, Joe is on fire with what he's doing. He manages this whole site. Sabian allows us to have this opportunity with not only their Facebook page, but also their YouTube channel. We bring this out. These will be posted later on. We're going to share more of these interviews. Jake, thank you so much. Let's keep in touch. I'll talk to you real soon.
Yes.
Thanks, Jake. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tom. See you.
Thanks, Joe B.